Video for the word minimize. Minimize. So notice the Z pronunciation in English. Minimize, minimize, minimize. Spanish translation, minimizar. It is a verb. It has two definitions. One is to reduce something, especially something bad, to the lowest possible level. And then the second definition is to try to make something less important than it really is. And I'll explain each of those in a minute. Word families, minimizing or minimized, are adjective forms. Synonyms for minimize are decrease, reduce, or diminish. And antonyms, the opposite of minimize is maximize. So that would be like to make something as high as possible. Minimize, to make it as low as possible. So let's look at some more specific examples with each definition. So the first is to reduce something, to make it as low. So it's an action. It's an action, and it means to reduce something, especially something bad, to the lowest possible level. So here's a sentence. It says, the company worked hard to minimize the number of unhappy customers by helping every customer. So that means, does a company want unhappy customers? No. They want the smallest number possible of unhappy customers. So how do they minimize the number of unhappy customers? They make that number as small as possible. How? By helping every customer a lot, making sure that every customer's needs are met. And then their number of unhappy customers will be as small as possible. So, and again, minimize is a verb. It is not... It's minimizar. No es mínimo. Mínimo es otra palabra, right? Este es minimizar, un verbo. It is an action, it is a verb. Remember that when you're writing your sentence. It's an action. It means to make it as small as possible. And it's something bad that we don't want, and we try to make it as small as possible. So another example with this is here, actually. This is the sentence with that we're doing for English class, related to English class, and this is another good example with definition 1. It is to minimize your grammatical errors. Proofread your essays before turning them in. And so, minimize means you want it as small as possible. You want as few as possible grammatical errors. If you could, you would have 0, right? That's your goal. You want to have it, make it as perfect as you can. Do not have lots of mistakes. So you want to minimizar your mistakes by making the smallest possible number of mistakes. How can you do that? It says proofread. Proofread means to check. Carefully check and your essay and make sure that the grammar is correct before you turn it in. That's what you need to do. So minimize, again, make as small as possible of something bad, and grammatical errors are something bad. Although I would say, I always tell students, they're not necessarily totally bad because they help you learn, right? So sometimes you make mistakes and then you learn from those mistakes. But still, our goal at the end is, if we would like to, at the end, when you graduate from Escuela Popular, we want you to have the smallest possible number of mistakes when you're in your writing. So to have as small as possible a number of mistakes, avoid every mistake that you can avoid, que se puede evitar, by checking your essay before you turn it in. And that was definition 1. Now let's look at definition 2. So definition 2 is a different definition, different meaning. This one says to try to make something less important than it really is. So this is often if somebody, let's say somebody is in trouble for some reason, but they don't want the public to think that they're in trouble. Or they don't. So an example of that would be politicians. Politicians, if somebody is attacking them for something, they don't want the public to pay attention to that. Whatever their people are attacking them for, they try to avoid that subject sometimes by making it seem less important. So, and I have an example here for the 2020 election, presidential election, right, which is happening right now when I'm making this video. In the 2020 election, both candidates have some problems. So Joe Biden has, people say that there's a problem because his son Hunter did some bad things. And so, but Joe Biden wants to minimize those problems, to say those problems are not important. make it less important than it really is. On the other hand, Donald Trump tries to minimize problems with his handling of the coronavirus. So Donald Trump keeps saying, the virus is okay, it will go away, it's fine, don't worry about it. So that's a good example of minimize, because the coronavirus really is a very serious problem, but Donald Trump is trying to make people not think about it. He wants people not to think about it because if they think about it, they might think that he, Donald Trump, made mistakes and maybe they will not vote for him. So politicians minimize problems a lot. Anybody, I mean, even in a family, if you think about it, like imagine if a kid breaks something, right, and then they go to their parents, they will say, I broke something, but it's not too serious. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big problem. And then the parent might go in the other room and discover, in fact, some big thing is broken and it's really serious. But the kid tries to say, it's okay, it's okay. My daughter Rachel does that a lot. She always says, it's okay. And she puts on her best smile and she says, it's okay, when she knows that she did something bad. So that's what minimize is for this meaning. It's basically you did something bad, but you don't want people to pay attention to it. So you try to say, I made a mistake, but it's not important. It's not important. Don't worry about it. When in fact it really is more important, but you're trying to tell people it is not important. That's what that definition of minimize is. All right? Thank you very much for watching the video today.